Assalamualaikum and a very good day everyone. This week we'll be looking at identifying and applying deductive reasoning patterns in arguments. This is the content of this week chapter. Now before we move on in identifying the common patterns in deductive arguments, let us look at what is deductive reasoning. Now, before we look at the definition of deductive reasoning, let us look at the definition of deductive arguments. Deductive arguments try to prove their conclusion with rigorous, inescapable logic. In other words, you're trying to prove or you're trying to say that your conclusion must be true. Now, this is very much different to what inductive reasoning is all about. Inductive arguments suggest that the conclusion is likely or possibly to be true. So here, the difference that we can see between inductive and deductive reasoning is very certain with the conclusion. Inductive reasoning, on the other hand, is not that certain. Now, deductive arguments claim to provide logically conclusive grounds for their conclusions. That is, they attempt to show that their conclusions must be true given the premises asserted. If you give the premises asserted, therefore your conclusion must be true. If your conclusion is true, therefore it is deductive. So we can see here, if it is a definite conclusion, therefore it is deductive. If it is an indefinite conclusion, then it will be inductive. So that is how I remember. You have the word definite for deductive, indefinite that starts with I, then it becomes inductive. There are 5 common patterns of deductive reasoning, and we'll start with the first one, hypothetical syllogism. Now, a hypothetical syllogism is a syllogism that contains at least one hypothetical or conditional, meaning to say it uses the if and then in the premise. Now, what is basically a syllogism? A syllogism is a 3-line argument, that is, an argument that consists of exactly 2 premises and a conclusion. Now, the basic rule for syllogism is the basic rule for hypothetical syllogism is if A then B, that is the first premise. A, that will be the second premise. Then the conclusion is therefore B. Now let us look at few types of hypothetical syllogism. We'll start with the first one, which is modus ponens. Now in modus ponens, the rule is if A then B, the second premise A, therefore the conclusion is B. Give an example here. If I want to get a stable job, I better study hard. Premise number 2, I do want to get a stable job. Therefore, I better study hard. Next is affirming the consequent. Now, affirming the consequent is the opposite of modus ponens. Now, let us look. If A, then B, B, therefore A. Example, if I want to get a stable job, I better study hard. I do want to study hard. Therefore, I will get a better job. Now, the third type of hypothetical syllogism is chain argument. Now we involve with C. If A then B, premise number 2, if B then C, the conclusion, therefore if A then C. Give an example here, if we don't stop for gas soon, then we'll run out of gas. If we run out of gas, then we'll be late for the wedding. Therefore, if we don't stop for gas soon, we'll be late for the wedding. Next is modus tollens, or better known as denying the consequent. Now let us look at the rule. If A then B, because there's the word denying, therefore premise number 2 is not B, therefore not A. I give an example here. If we are in Shah Alam, then we are in Selangor. We are not in Selangor. Therefore, we are not in Shah Alam. The last type of hypothetical syllogism is denying the antecedent. As you can see here, this type is the opposite of modus tollens, the one that we learned just now. If A then B, not A, therefore not B. If we are in Shah Alam, then we are in Selangor. We are not in Shah Alam, therefore we are not in Selangor. Now let us stop for a while and do some quick exercises. Please go to the following link in order for you to complete the first exercise. Enjoy!